Hello. So today we're going to be taking a look at Looker Studio and basically how to use it in order to create powerful presentations that are easy to understand. A lot of times you are going to be talking with someone if you're a data analyst, and they're going to want to see data visualized. Um, you can do that in Excel, and there's a bunch of other tools, but Looker Studio is a free option that you can use, especially if you work at a smaller company or if your main job is not data visualization. This is a tool that you can basically pull out and use in order to make better presentations. So people are going to really like this. In general, most people don't want to sit and look at like tables and data and stuff. Pretty much no one does. And then the people that do like it would be better served if you would create it into a visualization. So here we have a small table. This is very simple. And the purpose of this is not really to learn about data right now. It's just kind of to walk through how we can visualize it in the best way. So we've got the name, number of dogs owned, number of cats owned. We want to see in a visual way how many dogs each of these people own. We have Gerald, Beyonce, Hermione's on this list. It's unbelievable. And then the number of cats owned. And then we might take a look at how this data all interacts with each other. Like, how many pets does the average person own? What's the highest number of cats that's owned by someone in our list? Things like that. So all pretty simple, but it's basically just setting the foundation so that when you do come in and you've got like huge customer data and all stuff like that, you'll be able to use it. So really the foundation is very simple, and it can be extrapolated into huge things. All right, so this is Looker Studio. I just opened it. There's tons of templates that you can use. So if you work in marketing or advertising, that's where a lot of visualizations come from. That's the field that I come from, is advertising. And so there's tons of people that want their marketing data visualized, their financial data visualized, their customer data and their operations data, all different types of stuff. But today we're doing dogs and cats. So inside of here, you can see create. You can either create a new report or a new data source. So every report needs a data source. If you're making a report and there's no data source, there's nothing to show. So the data source is handled separately, and then the reports are built on top of those. So you can kind of consider the data source to be the back end of this data visualization tool, and then the front end, which is what people are going to actually use, it's sometimes called a UI or user interface, is going to be the dashboard. So we want to do a new data source. Now, there's a bunch of different connectors that you can use. So you can connect straight to Google Analytics, Google Ads, Facebook, YouTube, all the main big ones. BigQuery, which is just a database basically that's owned by Google. Today, we just want to use Excel. And surprisingly, Google doesn't have Excel. It has Google Sheets. So we got to use Google Sheets. We're going to authorize. We're going to use my account. Nobody email me. We're going to go to all items, and we're going to make a new one. So Google Sheets. Let's go in. Holy cow. Should have done this before. Luckily, it's going to take 2 seconds. All right, so we're back in action. Boom. Now our data is in here. We want to tie it to, we'll refresh this page. We're going to call this, and this is so tiny, dogs and cats. Boom, Google Sheets saves it. So now when we go into Google Sheets and we look up dogs and cats, it's right here. There's the sheet. We can connect it. Boom, beautiful. This is our data source. So we can see that the cats owned and the dogs owned are different numbers. The name is going to be a text value. So numbers can be added, multiplied, divided, averaged, all these things, and text cannot be. And the reason I'm making that obvious, seemingly obvious point is that if you have a number in here and it's a value of text, you can't do anything with it. It's not gonna add it up. And then a record count is just the number of records that you have. So let's go ahead and create this report. We're about to add data. So again, like I said, the back end and the front end are coming together. So once you get in here, it looks all very confusing. For the most part, it's not. There's a lot of detail that you can go into, but it's pretty easy if you just want to do some of the basic stuff, which is what we're going to do today. And this is just visualizing data for your PowerPoint, for your boss, for whoever. All right, so on the right, we have dimensions. Now, dimensions are things that generally cannot be added and multiplied together. And they are also the descriptor, basically, of the row of data that you're looking at. So the dimension in this case would be the name. So king, you can't add king plus king. I mean, you could, it'd be two kings, but it doesn't really make sense. It's just the name of the person. So this is the dimension, and then the record count is just in here. How many times did king show up? That's not really that useful for us. We want to do this. Dogs owned, and then also cats owned. And what I'm doing here is putting them in as metrics. So again, these are the fun things that we can display and visualize. My dog is downstairs making noise. All right, so let's see. What if we turn this into a bar chart? Is it going to do anything crazy? Yes, it is. This isn't really that great of a way to visualize. You can kind of see how many cats and how many dogs people own, but it's not really our best option. So our best option might be to visualize this in a different way. So we just want to see cats, for example. There you go. Now we can see cats. And what we might want to do is actually sort this, right, by the number of cats owned. Boom. So now we can see instantly when we have our data and we have to look at it, you kind of sort like, all right, who has the most cats? Sure. And sure, you can sort and do all that. But having it visually available like this shows not only who has the most cats, it shows who has the least instantly. And it shows kind of the gradient. All right. Where does everyone stand? Gabriel's right in the middle, things like that. So we can create a new page by hitting add new page. And we can add another chart. So this time we want to add a bar chart again. We'll throw it in here. And instead of record count, now let's do dogs owned. And again, using the sort tool, we can sort left to right who has the least dogs, who has the most dogs. Either way, just by filtering it like this. You can do it alphabetically as well if you want. So you can do name again. That's not going to usually be useful. What's really useful is looking at the metric. All right. So next, what do we want to do? We want to see maybe what's the average number of cats that a person has, right? And so anytime you're working in business intelligence, data visualization, things like that, you shouldn't do what I did, which is just jump in here. You have a data set. Somebody says, I want it visualized. That's not the point. There's a million different ways that you could visualize any amount of data. And really what's important is having a business question and then answering it and then providing it in a way that it can be answered over and over again. So a lot of times things like revenue, how many customers do we have? This is very specific questions that somebody wants to come in here and look at and then be able to do over and over again. So for example, what's the average amount of dogs that people have? When you're working with people in an office environment, or maybe you have a client and you start getting into visualization, what you really need to do is have a period of time where before you build anything, before you even gather your data, ask them what they need to know. Because that'll save you a lot of time and a lot of headaches of preparing data, cleaning data, guessing what they want, and then putting it in here. And then they're like, oh, this is useless. I've done that a lot of times until I really learned I don't even start working on stuff until people tell me exactly what they need. Cool. So for us to do the average number of dogs, what we'll do is we'll add another chart. We're going to have what's called a scorecard. And scorecards are going to want to be used when you have a single number that somebody can look at and they don't need to break it out by any dimensions or anything like that. So this bar chart or bar graph is great when we want to see how many each of the people have, how many dogs they have. But when we want to see just in general, what's the average number of dogs? That's one number that somebody can come in here and look at and get an answer to their question. So that's when you use a scorecard. We'll put the scorecard at the top. And right now it says dogs owned and it's a sum. We're going to make it an average. The average is 3.25 dogs. And it just says dogs owned. That's not very descriptive. So we're going to want to change the name to be average number of dogs owned. And you can probably make that name a little better. That's kind of not super efficient. It's really long. So maybe you would just say average number of dogs, whatever. That's up to you. In terms of stylization, now this doesn't really look great. We have the header that's kind of going off into the ether, and then the number is just left aligned. So we're going to go ahead and center align it by going into style and then center aligning. Now maybe we want to see what's the max number of dogs. So you can always copy anything in here and paste it. So now we have the average number of dogs. Again, we're going to go into this little metric changer where you can see the pen and click max. And now, boom, what's the max number of dogs that somebody owns? 8. And let's do it again. Let's do the minimum. What's the minimum number of dogs that somebody owns? 0. That's sad. They should get a dog. I have 3. I like dogs. If you don't have a dog, you should get one. But maybe you're a cat person. I wouldn't want to talk to you if you're a cat person, but that's okay. All right. So this is basically just an introduction of how to get your simple data inside of Looker Studio and how to start playing around with it, how to create the very beginnings and basics of a chart. This is maybe useful for you if you're in high school, college, or you're just getting your feet wet inside of like the corporate world. You just got your first job. Somebody asked you to visualize something and you're like, I have no clue how to do that. Excel is kind of clunky, in my opinion, when you're doing basic visualizations. It's not as intuitive as Looker Studio is. So this is a good place for you to start. And yeah, I hope this helped. If it did, please like, subscribe, drop a comment, do all those things that everybody making content wants. And I appreciate you watching.